It's Miss Erin from Carroll County Public Library. It's good to see you again. Wow, I have some stories for you today. Oh wow, part 2 of Sassafras and Root-Beer, my goats, part 2 of their story. But before we get to that, let's do our hello song. It goes like this. We clap and sing hello, we clap and sing hello. With our friends at story time, we clap and sing hello. We wave and sing hello, we wave and sing hello. With our friends at story time, we wave and sing hello. Well, hello friends. All right, so I have a story to tell you. Now, I made this story up myself. And it's all about Root-Beer and Sassafras. Now, you can make up stories too, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later and how you can make your story into a book. But today, I'm going to tell you my story using story cards. So the title of our book is The Tasty Doorbell, a Root-Beer and Sassafras adventure by me, Erin Snell, starring Root-Beer and Sassafras. And this is the title page. It tells us the title again. The Tasty Doorbell, a Root-Beer and Sassafras adventure by Erin Snell, starring Root-Beer and Sassafras. Now, this is very loosely based on a portion of a chapter of Billy Whiskers, the autobiography of a goat by Francis Trago Montgomery in 1902. Now, this book is found in the public domain, which means that anyone can read it. And I also found out, this is interesting for grown-ups, that Billy Whiskers was made into some silent films in the 1920s. So the Tasty Doorbell. One late night, after Frank and his family went to bed in their house, and Root-Beer and Sassafras were sleeping in the barn, a thunderstorm rolled through their little town. In the barn, Root-Beer and Sassafras woke up and couldn't fall back to sleep, even though the thunderclouds went on to the next town. When little goat kids are awake at night, they tend to get into trouble. Root-Beer and Sassafras were no exception. They pushed against the gate that penned them in and squeezed their way out. First went Root-Beer and then Sassafras out into the night to explore. Ew. Well, their curiosity led them to explore the family's garden. They've never been allowed in the garden. Oh no. What do you think Root-Beer and Sassafras find in the garden? What kind of things grow in a garden? Think about it. Think about it like Root-Beer is. And tell your grown-up, what kind of things grow in a garden? Can you think of vegetables? Can you think of maybe some fruits? Wonder what grows in a garden. Well, Root-Beer and Sassafras learned all about what grows in a garden. Sassafras tasted something yellow. But he wasn't sure if he liked it. Do you know what it is? It's a yellow pepper, a yellow bell pepper. Have you tasted one of those? But then Root-Beer found other yellow vegetables and nibbled the hard outsides to get to the soft insides. Do you know what these are? They're squash. Different kinds of squash. I see a spaghetti squash and then kind of like a yellow zucchini squash. Meanwhile, Sassafras kicked the dirt with his hooves and he uncovered an orange vegetable. Yum! This one is very tasty, thought Sassafras. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Do you know what vegetable this is? You're right. Carrots. Do you like carrots? I do. I like them when they're crunchy and when they're cooked and soft. But then Sassafras found something red and sweet. He took a nibble. Delicious, he thought. Root-Beer joined his brother and they ate the whole row of them. The whole row. The green leaves and the red fruit as well. Do you know what fruit this is? You're right. Strawberries. Do you like strawberries? Me too. Well, Root-Beer and Sassafras went on to delicious explorations in the garden. They chomped and nibbled on, let's see, kale. You know what this is? An onion. Let's see. What's down here? How about this side? Asparagus. Oh, do you like these? Green beans. And potatoes. They had to dig a little for the potatoes. Yum, yum, yum. They even tasted this orange pumpkin. Wait a minute. That isn't a pumpkin. Do you know what Root-Beer and Sassafras nibbled? You're right. Silly Root-Beer. Silly Sassafras. They nibbled on the children's soccer ball. Oh my, such silly goats. Well, Root-Beer and Sassafras were feeling full after they stomped around the garden eating vegetables, fruit, and herbs. So they left the garden to explore more places. Root-Beer and Sassafras went to the house where the little boy Frank and his family were sleeping. First, Root-Beer and Sassafras went to the back door. They nibbled things along the way. Silly goats. They nibbled the rain boots and the umbrella near the door. Do you see them? See the umbrella and rain boots? But then, whoa, they noticed by the door that thing. Sassafras spotted it. It's a yellow thing up high next to the door. Do you know what that is? Well, the goats weren't sure, so Sassafras was thinking of the delicious yellow vegetables in the garden he tasted. So he tasted it. Ding dong! Ma! Ma! Oh my, at first it frightened Sassafras and Root-Beer, but curiosity got the best of him and he tasted it again. Ding dong! Wow, he thought. It wasn't delicious tasting, but he liked the sound. But then, a light went on in the house. Uh-oh. Sassafras and Root-Beer went on their way to the front of the house, nibbling things along their way as they went. They nibbled the water spout, the birdhouse, wow, they nibbled that a lot, and they nibbled the flowers. Oh dear. Inside the house, Frank's parents were concerned. Who would ring the doorbell in the middle of the night? So they went downstairs and looked out the back door, but no one was there. You see, by now, Root-Beer and Sassafras got to the front porch. Root-Beer spotted a yellow thing by the door, and he wanted to taste it this time. So Sassafras watched as Root-Beer nibbled the yellow thing. Ding dong! Root-Beer thought the sound was magnificent. He wondered if tasting the yellow thing caused that beautiful sound. So he tasted it again. Ding dong! Oh my. By now, Frank and his sister were awake and the whole family looked out the front door, but no one was there. Were the neighbors playing a trick on them? Uh-oh, thought Root-Beer and Sassafras when they saw the front porch lights switch on. So they quickly ran to the back of the house again on their way to the barn. After all, they were getting tired. They had a lot of adventures. But before they ran the rest of the way to the barn, they both wanted to taste that yellow thing by the back door one more time. Ding dong, ding dong. Ha! What a marvelous sound. So then they went off to the barn and settled in their straw beds. Back at the house, Frank's family heard the doorbell at the back door ring. So they ran through the living room and kitchen to look out the back door. Well, they looked, but no one was there. See, there's the front door, there's the living room, the kitchen, the back door. They turned on the porch light at the back door, but no one was there. Well, they decided to look around the outside of the house. And that is how our adventure ends for now. Frank, let's see, where is Frank? Right here. Frank and his family searched outside the house in their pajamas while Root-Beer and Sassafras snoozed away in the barn. And that, my friends, is the end. So the last page of a book is sometimes a page about the author. So if you make a book, make sure you include that. It can have all sorts of things on it. It could have a picture of your family. It could have your picture. It could tell a little bit about where you live and what you enjoy doing. So this one, for myself, I wrote, Miss Erin lives with her family in rural Carroll County, Maryland. She enjoys spending time with her Nigerian dwarf goats, Root-Beer and Sassafras. And that is the book that I created. You are all very creative and have wonderful imaginations. So you could create a story and put it into a book. You can use drawings, you can use photos, you can use cutouts of paper. You could use all sorts of things and glue into your book onto the pages. So that's what I did. I started with a piece of paper and then I glued things on there. I used some pictures and I drew a lot myself. And then I can put that into a book. So here I can staple it, or I can punch some holes, put a string through it, and then my book could open this way. And if I'm worried about maybe my pictures that I glued on my pages falling off, I could laminate them, or I could cover them with contact paper, clear contact paper. Your parents could know what that is. You're grown up. I could put them in sheet protectors and put them in a binder. There are all sorts of ways I could hold the pages of my book together. I can also use one of the pharmacies or photo places and send them the pictures to make it into a book that'll last. So that is my book. There are all sorts of ways that you can make a book. You could tell fiction stories. Those are stories that you make up in your mind. But you can also tell stories that are nonfiction, which means that it's true. So maybe some true adventures that your family have had. Maybe a day in the life of your family. It could be all sorts of things. You could tell a true story about your pets. There are all sorts of things that you can make up stories about or tell true stories about. Okay, friends, well, I suggest that we pause this video for a little while for a wiggle break. But before you go, I want you to think about how these animals move and what they sound like. Think about how chickens move and what they sound like. Think about how goats move. Do they jump around? Do they kick their back legs? What do they sound like? Think about cats. How do cats move? And what do they sound like? Do they make different sounds? How about a hound dog? What does a hound dog sound like? Does it howl? Does it bark? Let's see. Think about a parrot bird. Do you know what a parrot bird is? It's a tropical bird. How does it move? Does it fly? What does it sound like? Does it squawk? Well, I want you to think about those. Chickens, goats, cats, dogs, hound dogs, and parrot birds. Think about how they move and sound. When you pause this video, I want you to find space in your apartment or your house and practice moving like those animals and making those animal sounds. Maybe your grown-up will join you, okay? And then you'll be ready for our story when you come back. Okay, pause the video now. All right, so I had to take a little time to get set up for this next story. I made a house out of cardboard to tell this story, but I also thought of telling this story using a glove puppet. That's something that you can make with your grown-up, with different characters of your story on the fingers, and you can always decorate this part. So remember I said to practice making the sounds of a chicken and how a chicken moves, goats, hound dog, cat, and parrot. Oh my. Somebody might be coming to interrupt my story time, it seems. Oh my. Well, I hope they don't eat the house. Well, hi babies. I'm telling a story. Are you going to listen? Are you going to be good listeners? Something tells me though. Hi, Root Beer. All right. So hopefully they'll help me tell the story, but I'm not really sure. Whew. Well, hello friends. Now I'm ready to tell you the second story. I'm inside now. The goats are still outside. They ate some of my papers and tried to chew on my house. I will include bloopers at the end of this video so that you could see what happened when the goats were there. All right, so this is a modern day version of a Jewish folktale, and it goes like this. Once upon a time, not so long ago, like yesterday, there lived a family in the farming community of Carroll County, Maryland. They lived in a quiet, rural area surrounded by green fields and beautiful, fluffy groves of trees. The house was small, but just the right size for 2 parents and 2 children. Until there came a time when they needed to stay home together for many, many, many days. The 2 parents had to work on their computers, and the 2 children had to do school at home. So one child had to practice his guitar. Twang, twang, twang. The other child had to practice her trumpet. Toot, toot, toot. And sometimes they even practiced together. Twang, twang, twang. Toot, toot, toot. Can you do that with me? Twang, twang, twang. Toot, toot, toot. Oh my goodness. And when the children weren't working on their schoolwork, they talked on the phone with their friends, laughing and carrying on. Hello? Oh, that's so funny. Tell me again. Or they played computer games like Minecraft. Watch out! There's someone coming behind you! Oh, hurry, get the gold! Oh my! Oh my! Said the parents, and they complained to each other. It's so loud in here. I can't think. I can't concentrate with all the guitar and trumpet playing and the laughing and carrying on. How can we work at home with all this racket? The parents needed help. They needed advice. So they asked their friend, they called on the phone and asked their rabbi friend, who was a wise teacher and counselor. They told the wise teacher all about their noisy house, complaining about being stuck at home and having to deal with all the noise when they were trying to work. What do we do? Asked the parents. The wise teacher, knowing they lived on a small farm, asked, well, do you have any chickens? Oh, yes, said the parents. We have 2 young chickens and 3 older chickens. So 2 young chickens, 3 older chickens. We have 5 chickens. Wow. So the wise teacher tells the parents to bring the chickens into the house. The parents were very confused, but they didn't ask any questions. They know the teacher is very wise. So they bring the 5 chickens into the house. Let's open the door. 1 chicken. 2 chickens. 3 chickens. 4 chickens. 5 chickens. 5 chickens with 5 chickens in the house. 5 chickens are all in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With 5 chickens in the house, it wasn't quieter and it wasn't less noisy. It was worse. The chickens were pecking and clucking and flapping their wings. Can you do that? Flap your wings. Oh my goodness. The parents called the wise teacher back and they told the teacher that they did what the teacher told them to do. They did what the teacher told them to do. The parents called the wise teacher back and they tell the teacher that they did what they were told. They brought the chickens from the coop into the house, but the house feels more crowded and still noisy. Well, the wise teacher thinks a while and then asked the parents, do you have any goats on the farm? Oh, yes, they say. We have 2 cute goats. They're just babies, kids. Oh, and we love them dearly. The wise teacher says, good, bring them into your house. When parents scratch their head, they scratch their heads in confusion, but they shrug. They say, okay. Well, they bring the goats from the barn into the house. They had 2 goats. I wonder if their names are Sassafras and Root-Beer. So here goes one goat into the house. Here goes the other goat into the house. Oh my. So now there are 5 chickens and 2 goats. The chickens were pecking and clucking and flapping their wings. Come on, join me. And then the goats were ma, ma, ma. Can you do that? Ma, 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 ma. And they were stomping their hooves, and they were, oh my goodness, and they were jumping on the couch. Boing, 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 boing. Oh my goodness. It's so loud in there. Whew. Well, the parents call the wise teacher again, and the very next day, and they say, wise teacher, we did what you told us to do, but the chickens are roosting in our closet and they're pooping on our clothes. Oh, and the goats are eating the kids' schoolwork. Well, the wise teacher thinks for a while. There's a long silence on the phone. And then asks the parents if they have any other animals in the barn. Well, the parents tell the wise teacher that they have only a small farmette and they have no other animals. Well, the wise teacher friend thinks for an even longer while and then asks the parents if their neighbors have any pets. Yes, say the parents. The neighbor on one side has a hound dog, and the neighbor on the other side has a cat. And the neighbor across the street, well, that neighbor has a parrot bird. Ah, says the wise teacher. Ask your neighbors if they'll let you borrow their pets, if they'll let their pets visit your house for the day. The parents are more confused than ever, but they remind each other that, well, their friend, the rabbi, is a very wise teacher, and, well, they call their neighbors and they ask if their pets could visit for the day. Well, the neighbors agreed, and then the hound dog bounded over and went inside. The cat and the parrot bird were in their carriers on the porch. They brought them in, the cat and the parrot bird, and then let them loose in the house. Oh my, can you imagine? Now let's look. There are 5 chickens, 2 goats, a hound dog, a cat, and a parrot bird all inside their house. Oh my goodness. Oh, now the house is extremely crowded and noisy. In fact, it is much, much, much worse than before. The house is loud and it's chaotic. It's also very stinky. Phew! Like the barn. Oh, the parents are exasperated and they're incredibly frustrated. The chickens are pecking and clucking and flapping their wings. You do that with me? Let's do that. The chickens are pecking and clucking and flapping their wings. The goats are maying. Let me hear you. Oh, and they're stomping their hooves. Stomp, 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 stomp. And they're eating everything. And they're bouncing on the couch. Boing, 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 boing. And the hound dog is barking and howling. And chasing the cat who is meowing, meow, and hissing. Oh my goodness. And then the parrot is squawking and flying all around. Oh my goodness. That's a lot. Whew. We're going to do this part together. We're going to be all the animals. Are you ready? Let's all do it. We're going to make a lot of noise. All right, here we go. So now the parents are exasperated and frustrated. All of these animals are in the house. That's right. The chickens are pecking and clucking and flapping their wings. The goats are and stomping their hooves and jumping on the couch. Boing, boing, boing. Oh my goodness. And then the hound dog is howling and barking. Ow, ow, ow. And then the cat is hissing and meowing. And the parrot bird is squawking and flying around. Oh my goodness. Well, they call the wise teacher back. With desperation and pleading, they say, "Wise teacher, we have done everything you've said, but things are crazy here. We can barely hear you on the phone. The cat has pooped in the bathtub. We forgot about that litter box thing. And then the hound dog is chasing the chickens. And the parrot is flying into the walls and knocking the pictures down. Oh, and then there's the goats. The goats are eating the toilet paper. Oh, that's a big problem right now. We know you're a wise teacher, but we are going bonkers following your advice. Well, there was a long, long pause on the phone. Then the wise teacher says, at last, "Well, take the goats back to the barn. Put the chickens back in their coop. Send the hound dog and the cat and the parrot back to the houses, your neighbors' houses where they belong." Well, the parents quickly did what the wise teacher said. They took the 5 chickens back to the coop. They took the 2 goats back to the barn. They took the hound dog to their neighbor's house. They took the cat to the other neighbor's house. And they took the parrot across the street. They cleaned the house. The family worked all together to clean the house and put everything back in order. Now the house looks nice and it smells nice. And it was much less noisy. The parents agreed that even with the children's instrument practice, twang, 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 toot, toot, and phone calls with friends and computer games, their home was plenty big enough and quite peaceful after all. They loved being there more than any place in the world, even when they have work to do. And that, my friends, is the end. So I hope you've enjoyed that story. That was a fun one to tell to you. Well, there are all sorts of great books at your library online as digital books. You can find them on Hoopla. You can find them on Overdrive. You can find them, let's see. Oh, you can watch videos on Canopy Kids. There are all sorts of things, all sorts of books and videos that you can access that your grown-up can help you find online. All you need to do is go to library.car.org. So that's library.car.org. So I hope you had a good time. As our ending song, we'll do a song similar to what we did at the beginning, but this time we are going to say goodbye, friends. We clap and say goodbye. We clap and say goodbye. With our friends at story time, we clap and say goodbye. Let's stomp this time. Ready? We stomp and say goodbye. We stomp and say goodbye. With our friends at story time, we stomp and say goodbye. We wave and say goodbye. We wave and say goodbye. With our friends at story time, we wave and say goodbye. Bye, friends. Confused about this, but they didn't ask any questions. They know the teacher is very wise. So, all right, I think Root-Beer has settled down on my lap. Oh, but Sassafras has not. We'll see how this goes. Paper's all messed up. Okay. Oh, easy. Don't eat my story. Oh, okay. So this is a modern day version. All right, friends. I think maybe Root-Beer has settled down a bit on my lap, and Sassafras is chewing something. So, Root-Beer, don't eat my... Root-Beer finds my story very tasty. All right, so once upon a time, Root-Beer. One child had to practice his guitar. Twang, 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 twang. The other child... Root-Beer. Can't go up there. Root-Beer. No. Nope. No Root-Beer. No Root-Beer. Why don't you come sit on my lap? Nope. Come sit on my lap and snuggle. Come sit on my lap and snuggle. I'm gonna throw it outside. Okay. No, we're not eating this. Nope. You can eat this. Oh, Root-Beer. Come snuggle. Snuggle with me. Snuggle with me. Snuggle. Can't eat my phone. You can't eat my phone. You can't eat the phone. Nope. Okay. All right. So, I think Root-Beer has settled down mostly. and he can chew a story of his own. Uh-oh. Whoops. And hopefully, there's yours. You can chew that one. Hopefully, Sassafras will settle down for our story time and not wreck the house. There's yours. Okay. Nope. Okay. Are you gonna listen to my story? You gonna listen to my story? All right. Be good listeners. Yeah. Okay, so all right, friends, I'm attempting to do stories with my goats, Sassafras and Root-Beer is on my lap. Hopefully they'll be good listeners. I'm not entirely sure, but as long as they don't eat the phone or my story or my house, I should be fine. Okay, so they have a double-decker goat thing. Okay. All right, friends. Hopefully they will help me. All right, I think we are ready. Are you ready for story time? All right, be good listeners. Whoops, Root-Beer's not settled. What's wrong? Is your brother sitting on you? Okay, so this is how our story goes. It's a modern day retelling of a Jewish folktale, and it goes like this. Once upon a time, not so long ago, like yesterday, there lived a family in the farming community of Carroll County. They lived in a quiet rural area surrounded by lush green. Oh, you can't eat it. The wise teacher then tells the parents to bring the chickens into the house. The parents were very confused about this, but they didn't ask any questions. They know the teacher is very wise. So,